And can you comment a little bit more on some of the components that go into the brand, like the coloration that they use, like on the logo for eBay, or the way people answer a phone at a company, or the type styles they use in their print media?
Absolutely.
Can you explain some of the components that go into branding, because it's so many things?
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you touched on things that are incredibly diverse. You talked about color. Color is extremely important. People have a feeling to different colors, and based on the color you choose, you will either feel appropriate or not. Based on the type style that you choose for your logo, you may feel high tech, you may feel old and stead and very conservative. You may feel completely out of control. Let's see, we talked
that would
about
be
color.
Yellow and red.
Yeah, right.
Completely out of control.
Well, it's funny, a lot of fast food restaurants are yellow and red, and through all the different studies that they've done show that those are colors that appeal to people who are looking for something to eat. When a person picks up the telephone, the way that they speak to you, the way that they address you when you walk into Ritz-Carlton, they say, "Welcome home." They're trying to evoke a feeling, and that feeling is the fiber of their brand, and you get very comfortable with that. If they hit on something and they do it consistently and they do it well in terms of how they speak, when you get a piece of print collateral from a business, if it looks a certain way or the pictures of the people are doing certain things, maybe it's a lifestyle that resonates with your lifestyle. All these things go into making up the brand, the experience, the sort of feeling and the tone, the personality of the company you're looking for. Where, at the end of the day, everyone is looking to identify in some way, and they want to be doing business with people who look and feel and talk like they do, who are in touch with who feel their pain, right?
Right.
And this branding concept is a way to identify with the customer that way.
I always think of this phrase I use in a class I teach on fabulous first impressions. It's people like people who are like themselves.
That's right. They do. Yeah, it's a sales 101, right?
Right.
But it does apply to this as well.
Can you comment on what's happening in terms of the success or the not successful companies who don't choose to actually look at branding? They're out there, they're trying to sell their product, they're trying to sell their service, but they haven't really addressed this branding thing. Can you really be successful without being aware of your brand and promoting that brand and growing it and having that long-term vision of where you want to go with it?
There are certainly companies that have been successful without doing that. They usually do something else that's extraordinary. They may be first to market in their space. They may be the 900-pound gorilla for some reason in their industry because they did something that nobody else could do. So I can't say that this is the only way, but I can say that when there's a field of competitors, which as the world becomes more and more flat, right? You've read the book. When there's a field of competitors and a person has to make a decision on who it is they're going to choose to work with, being the one with the strong brand is absolutely the way to succeed there. When you're looking at 20 different things on your desk, or you've gone to 10 different websites, or you've met with 5 different companies who are all pitching for business, or you walk to you're standing there in front of 6 different retail stores, and you're looking at each one of them, you get a feeling when you look at each of those stores, and the person that has their act together is the person who is with their brand, and that brand resonates with you. That is the person who's going to get your business without fail.
The people I pay attention to are the ones with the really nice websites with the font that I really like. I know that sounds strange, the font, the color, and layout of the website. If I don't like that, I'm out of it.
There's an aesthetic to almost every different industry and every different thing that you would buy, and the person who gets it right for you is the person who will win your business. And when we were in California, we did some work with different wine companies and learned very, very quickly through that process. And this was intro to branding for us back then. You could only stretch so far with a wine bottle, with a label. At the end of the day, if it didn't look kind of classic and have something on it that felt like wine, right? No one would buy. It didn't matter how cool the design was. It didn't matter how far you could stretch and you're showing your creativity. That was not the game. It was creating a brand that felt right to the consumer, and the consumer only wanted something very specific. They had a relationship with wine. It was a very specific thing, and if you offended that, forget it. You were done.
A lot of things are changing nowadays where we're pushing the boundaries of what we find acceptable or not acceptable in our life. And a lot of that's coming through the new social media. Like we see videos on things that we probably wouldn't have seen before, or people doing things that maybe we have never heard about. So we're actually exposed to more and more ideas. Is that giving people more leverage in how far they can go with the creativity with their brand? I mean, we see people co-branding things, two companies, very, very diverse, coming together and co-branding things. We're accepting more things coming together that are very disparate and maybe wouldn't work together, kind of like oil and water. But now we're mixing those up because we can accept more inside of our band of acceptability in terms of consumer type things that are focused on us, you know? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, and I attribute it not to wider acceptance on the part of the consumer base, but rather to the method by which these new companies are communicating. I actually wrote a really interesting post on our website blog recently, and the title is "Keep It Real." And the concept is that I really believe there is a paradigm shift in business communication taking place. Whereas over the last 15 years ago or so, you just had to be out there. And it didn't matter what you were saying, you just needed to have presence, and you were in great shape. And then you needed to have, maybe 8 years ago, you needed to have presence and be entertaining. And that was done through sort of a form of metaphorical communication, right? You'd get visuals that felt similar to the concept you were trying to get across, and you'd put that together with a message, and then you'd reach your customer. Today, what I think successful companies are doing, and it's really the cornerstone of how we do what we do, is they're getting into the heads of their consumer base, and they're understanding what their pains are, what their issues are, what their focus is, and then they're talking to those in a very real tone. And when you look at these ads you're talking about, where they're taking two totally disparate products, these companies both know that they have a solution to the pain or the desire of a particular customer. And they're just going to bring those things together to make a really ultra compelling message to that person. Does that make sense? So it's this concept of real, focused communication, and that helps them to build their brand.
Okay, I've got another question for
Go
you.
right ahead.
This is a big one. I'm a guerrilla marketing coach, so I'm involved with J. Conrad Levinson's organization. And one thing we talk about that comes up quite often is companies that put out advertisements or messages in the media that don't really necessarily relate, or the relationship to the product or service of the company. It's really a long shot in your brain to make that connection. And you look at the ad, you cannot even relate to what company it could possibly be, and it ends up not being even memorable. How is that working with branding? I mean, advertising is very expensive to do. They have very expensive agencies working behind this, yet the message seems inconsistent with what the company's all about. How does that all work? And is that harming their brand? I mean, what are they doing to their brand when they're doing that?
Okay, my personal opinion, I think they're making a mistake.
Okay.
What I believe is that they understand advertising and marketing is changing. It will change forever. We're in the process of it right now. It just doesn't work the way that it used to work. The consumer is far more savvy. They're being bombarded with messages every day. They are tuned out to this metaphorical thing which has been happening, and companies are looking for different ways to connect with that audience through the same mediums, because frankly we're not going to develop a whole lot of new mediums in the near future. So how to use those mediums in a way that will still connect with the audience. Entertainment is definitely one, and if you watch the Super Bowl, you saw a whole bunch of really funny ads, and
But I can't remember any of them.
and you can't. There's a couple of them, right? But they were very funny and entertaining, and so some of the beverage companies, beer companies, things they found unique ways to reach out to their audience. Other companies are trying unusual tactics. They're going completely out of bounds. They're trying something that is not at all in alignment with their brand or their message, to try and create an impact and get you to take note. And they're creating visuals that are kind of disturbing or interesting to look at in an unusual way. Just anything to get you to snap out of the sort of haze that you're in and notice them. And their philosophy, their concept is that if they do that, they might trigger that brand effect that they're looking for, where you'll associate them or remember their name